Hey friends and family.
Well, hello there, Rex and Shana here.
Hi, thank you for joining us today.
So what are we talking about?
Today we're talking about the things that we manifest that we don't like, the changes that we want to make by speaking life into them instead of death.
And the effects that that positive energy can really have on a person, or any or even groups of people. But I think largely, because of a video you actually showed me, it kind of inspired this of a gentleman who was talking about doing healing in different parts of your body that's feeling pain, but doing it in a way that it was one of the goofiest things I've ever seen. But I loved it. It was so endearing. Where he talked about if you have a sore knee or something like that, that to really put love into your knee. And he went so far as to kind of sing a little song about it to himself, that I love my knee, I love my knee. And in the process, offer a form of healing as a result. And he talks about how when he has his issues, he's an older gentleman, how this seems to really help him to get through some of these maladies. And we realize, there's a certain truth to this.
Right.
When you think about, Dr. Emoto's water experiments and what thoughts can do to molecules of water, and considering we're mostly water, what thoughts can do to even our bodies, of course.
Exactly. So, you and I talk so much on the station about manifesting what we want, manifesting the life that we want to live, and both of us having chronic pain. So one of the things that we practice in this is speaking life and not death into certain things. So when we see a change that is really important, a change that we want to experience, how do we do that? And I've talked, previously about my transformation with, body image and with certain things in my body I wasn't happy with, and particularly going through the illness and paralysis and some other things, how overcoming that and what that looked like, what that journey was like. And a lot of it was not just not listening to doctors, but stating what I want. So it wasn't, I don't want this, and state the negative thing. It's like, I do want this, and it was stating a positive thing. So that's a big part of it. And the way that I got my body to change much more to the way that I wanted and needed it was speaking life into it. Even like changing some of those fine little details that exercise and working out couldn't achieve. I was like, well, I'm going to start not saying these type of things to those areas, and I'm only going to say these type of things to those specific whatevers. And when I did, my body started to transform,
right,
the way that I wanted it to, in a way that nothing else could reach. And there's a reason for that. So that's kind of what we're putting into practice now in dealing with struggles and chronic pain and disabilities, what that looks like now.
Right. And you remind me, as you say that I mean, when I was, going back 11, almost 12 years now, when I was in the hospital after I fell 26 feet on concrete peppers, blah, 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 there was a lot of, obviously I broke, in addition to, the traumatic brain injury, I broke 20 bones, including my pelvis in 4 places, and just, cracked vertebrae, 8 ribs, et cetera, et cetera. But I had to relearn how to walk, and I had to start everything all over again. And there was a whole process to that, multiple surgeries and lots of therapy. And I remember, especially regarding the issue of walking, and of course, I've been a martial artist for most of my life.
Right.
I don't obviously do any fighting or anything like that anymore, but I still like to train. I still like to do the working out. And I remember going back to, when I was in the hospital, and nobody was trying to be, like negative or anything, but I remember it being explained to me that there's a good chance that, once I get to the point, even a couple of years after the fact, I'm probably going to be needing a walker to get around. There's a possibility I might need to go between a wheelchair and a walker because of how much damage I took in my body. Right. And I remember all the way back then laying in that hospital room, and I remember my teacher and a number of people that I trained with came and visited me one night, and I said to them, you know what, I'm going to be back training. I don't care how long it takes. I will be training again. I'm going to get back to that point where I can actually at least do the working out part of it again. And I know even at that, my teacher even commented to me a couple of years after the fact. He goes, Rex, I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. You look pretty rough when laying in that hospital bed. I mean, I know you said that, but I really wasn't too sure, just because you look pretty rough when you were in that bed. But I made that decision all the way back then that I was going to do certain things. And while I didn't maybe heal to the extent that I hoped to, I did exceed every medical expectation that the doctors and nurses, therapists had of me at that time. I don't need a walker to get around. I don't use a cane to get around. I do work out. I mean, I try to keep myself in the best shape that I can. On days when I'm not down with a migraine or something, I'm busy. I like to be active, and I like to take care of myself. And I will say there is a certain truth to making, for me, it was just like making that decision that I'm not going to settle for that.
Right.
I'm not going to tell myself that that's all I can do, and I'm going to be limited by that. I'm going to find out what I can really do, and I'm going to achieve it somehow. So there is a certain truth to that, and I think it starts with believing, first of all, that the possibility exists, letting yourself believe that, hey, this can happen. If I do the work, and in my case, there was a lot of pain involved, and the therapy was brutal at times, and going through the surgeries and whatnot, I mean, there's a lot to it. But every time I went through something like that, especially coming through a surgery and going through the therapies, I did the work. And not only that, but I made sure that when I was on my own time, of course, a therapist, if you've ever been through therapy, been through broken bones and things like that, then the therapist, you got your time in with the therapist, but then they also give you homework to do when you're on your own time. Because in my case, I saw my therapist usually once, sometimes twice a week. It wasn't like an everyday thing, except for when I was in the hospital, of course, I saw them every day. But when I got out of the hospital, the outpatient part of it was usually about once, sometimes twice a week. And I can say that in between, I not only did I do the homework that they gave me, but I also utilized my martial arts. Again, I wasn't training, obviously, but I have a lot of what's called forms in these martial arts, and Japanese martial arts is called katas, and then the Indonesian, Chinese martial arts, we call them forms. But the idea is you're doing all these different movements that the martial art asks you to do. So in addition to the therapy that my therapist was having me do, the homework that she was having me do, she did a great job. She was fantastic. She worked really hard for me. But I also added all my extra movements to it, and I was constantly challenging myself, always challenging myself, no matter how much it hurt. Because one thing I learned is that there's a difference between injury pain and healthy pain. And sometimes even healthy pain can be excruciating. But what I'm getting at is I didn't let anything limit me. I had a doctor do a surgery on my elbow. When I fell, one of the many broken bones I had is I destroyed my elbow in the fall, my left elbow, so I landed on my left side. And for a year, of course, I had a torn rotator cuff in my shoulder. That's among the injuries. For a whole year, I looked like I'd had a stroke because my arm sat here for the whole year. I literally could not straighten it or move my arm, but I literally moved about, I don't know if you can tell on the video, but I moved about that much. That was all it moved. The shoulder eventually, because of the inactivity, it froze, it locked up. So I couldn't even raise my shoulder in either direction. I was stuck like this for over a year. I had other surgeries that needed to get done first. And by the time I got to the elbow surgery, it was a very difficult and delicate surgery because basically the elbow had just fused itself. It grew together. It was all bone. I mean, the bone overgrew itself. I think it's called heterotrophic ossification if you're in the medical field. But the elbow was just complete bone and was all fused up. And my orthopedic surgeon had explained to me that there's a very delicate, very difficult surgery, and that most people didn't think the risk reward would be worth it for most people because it's a very, like I said, being such a difficult surgery that they wouldn't, in a very painful recovery, that they wouldn't necessarily get the reward out of it. But he saw how well I healed and how hard that I worked, so he took a chance on me to do the surgery on me, knowing that I was going to do the work, that if anybody had a chance of getting success out of that surgery, it would be me. And I did, and I'm going to tell you again, it was incredibly painful. Now the elbow's not perfect. If I took the shirt off and showed you the elbow, it literally looks like it's been Frankenstein together. It does not look at all like my other elbow at all. It's just kind of, it has just an awkward looking shape to it. But the point is it does. It functions. I can extend my arm most of the way. It's probably 85, 90% extended. I can do my working out. I can move. I can go out dancing, and the arm basically functions. I do my push-ups. I can do pull-ups. So what I'm getting at is I'm blathering off here a little bit. Is that don't be limited by what you think is possible or not possible. Even medical professionals, even if they have your best interest at heart, and I know all of mine did. I'm very blessed in terms of my experience between the hospital and the outpatient care that I received, and I was very blessed to have such great people involved. But I think among the reasons I healed the way that I did is I just made the decision that I was going to do it. It was going to happen. I was going to get to that point. Maybe it's not quite 100%, but I'd say it's a good 85, 90%, and it's functional. So my point is, and what you're saying to your point as well, is that manifestation starts with the belief that it's possible, that you can exceed, what somebody's telling you, even if it's an expert who has maybe your best interest at heart. Just realize that you're limited only by the bounds of your own imagination and what you think you can accomplish.
Right. So for me, I take it a step further. It's not about what's possible, it's about the expectation.
And you make the decision, yes.
The expectation is what is seemingly impossible in the human realm is absolutely going to happen in the spiritual realm.
Sure.
So for whatever is lost, whatever's taken away, whatever disappears, will come back, and it will be better than it was before the incident ever occurred.
Sure.
That includes for our health and our bodies.
Absolutely.
So before the illness, I was a fitness model doing 5 different types of workouts a week. And days I didn't have migraines, I was working out at least 2 hours a day, and I was running 3 to 6 miles a day.
Right. Because you've had your migraines pretty much your whole life.
No, since I was 22.
22, but still a good chunk of your life though.
Yeah, when somebody decided to slowly turn left into my car as I went forward down the street in Austin.
But that's still a long time.
Didn't make any sense.
Mine, I've had
Still
mine since I was
doesn't make any
44,
sense.
but still, I mean, it's still a long time. You've had them longer than I have.
Right, it was ridiculous, and it's still ridiculous, and you know, it doesn't make sense that somebody would choose that, knowing they can alter somebody's life, and yet they still make that choice. I'm just gonna hit this car. I don't know.
They're probably not really thinking. Who knows what other, or is it occupying?
She made eye contact with me before she hit me.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know what was going on. But, you know, that's what caused it, and it also caused a concussion. So, you know, then I had to go through finals that semester with a concussion.
Jeez.
And the school would not make accommodations, and that was pretty awful. So I didn't do well, needless to say, but it's what it was. The lasting effect is much more than the GPA for that semester. GPAs recover. You know, some injuries are slower to recover. I expect that for both of us, we're recovering.
Yes, I would agree.
I look at the progress that we have made.
Even for all the years since your head injury, you're still recovering. And I know that, you know, going on 12 years after my head injury, I'm still recovering too. You know, it's still healing.
It's a journey, right? Mm-hmm. But then with the illness, I mean, that was just brain fog and a bunch of other things. So
yeah, but brain fog's a big deal too. I would say just brain fog.
So
that brain fog
real.
can be so frustrating. Oh
it
my
is.
gosh.
So
one of the most frustrating things for me is when the brain just doesn't want to work.
So the way that I change my relationship with that is, you know, for me, it's the connection to Creator, divinity, and, you know, to God. Right. I mean, everybody has a different name, the beloved. Everybody has a different name for what that source is for them. I'm not giving you a name. I'm saying what my name is. Right. But my name is God, and, you know, Heavenly Daddy. So I'm like, thank you, Heavenly Daddy, for clear thinking. Thank you for a clear mind and a functioning brain. Thank you for these pieces that fit together as a whole and work according to the way you designed. It's changing the wording and the dynamic. When I'm having severe neck pain from a migraine, sometimes I'm like, I just want to cut this muscle out right here because it's a culprit of a migraine, or this muscle here is causing this one. Like, I can name what's happening. Then I'm like, thank you that all the muscles are relaxed and the headache is going away. Thank you that the headache is left. Thank you that headaches are no longer true for me. And it's just constantly giving thanks with the expectation that there is complete healing and that they are no longer true for me. So not only do I believe that the miracles happen, I'm waiting to see the results of that because I already believe that it happened.
I understand.
And for me, that's how manifesting is. But it's also remembering and visualizing my life pain-free. Visualizing my life with complete mobility again so that I can run rather than I have to learn how to run again in a few months because I want to run. I just have to learn how to do that again. And it's really painful and tedious. But I run at the trampoline park so that if I fall, I'm not injured. But I'm doing the motion, and it's like doing it on the moon. But I'm doing the motion. So it's like, okay, running is true for me, and here's the proof. I'm learning how to do this.
And there's a process, and that's what you're talking about, is you're in that process, and you're going to get to your destination as a result.
And I'm going to do it on solid ground in April.
Right.
That's when I get to start learning again. Oh, I'm excited. That's my goal. Let's see what that happens. I'm believing it will be April.
You'll make it happen.
I think so.
I'm saying you will. In this video right now.
Yes.
You'll pull it off.
I'm saying April. You know, it's just part of it is just being with what arises, being with what is. And, you know,
and
how do we create this
Don't let it
change?
discourage you. I mean, it can be challenging at times.
Oh,
but
I know
don't let
it is.
discourage you, because I mean, setbacks
Look how
happen.
hard it was to learn how to pedal a bicycle again when I was somebody who cycled and rode and did spin classes and wanted to be a spin instructor, and yeah, was training for all of that, and then this happens. No. Right? Because while I work in mental health, I also know how important the physical part is, and I was excited for that.
Sure.
Yeah. So I had to change. I had to change happen.
Goals have to change.
And this little puppy right here has helped me. And my little kitten over there. They both helped me.
Well,
She's right here.
There.
Oh, she's asleep. She's right there. It's, you know, we have our cheerleaders, right? We have our cheerleaders, and the animals are my cheerleaders, and a few people are my cheerleaders. You have a few cheerleaders, and the cheerleaders are the people who visualize with us what is impossible, so that nothing's impossible, and everything that seems impossible is happening.
And that's the idea. Again, and like I just said, it's just realizing that it's possible, and then making a decision that you're going to figure that out. And that's I mean, that's where I'm at. And it's nice that you have at least a couple of people that do support that and don't discourage it. At the very least, they don't discourage it. And I think given everything you've been through, what people have seen you accomplish, and the progress you've made, and the same with me, I'm just grateful nobody questions it anymore. Right. If I say I'm going to pull this off, it might take a while. I'm in the process. And people are just okay. All right, you do it, Rex. You got this. Yeah. Same thing with you, Shana. You do this. You got this.
And the people who don't stand by us and don't believe in us wouldn't stand by us and believe in us anyhow for anything.
Sure.
So we don't need that. Hence, we have fired doctors.
Yeah, that's true.
Doctors who don't believe in us, sure. we had to fire them. You know,
or just weren't doing their job in a couple of cases.
Or telling us the absolute worst case scenario and not believing in what was seemingly impossible. Anyone who's telling me that what I'm manifesting isn't going to happen doesn't belong on my team.
Right.
Yeah. They don't deserve that.
Yeah.
I don't deserve what they're dishing out. They don't deserve my trust in them because it's already broken.
And I even appreciate that, one of those supports was my previous neurologist. He kind of changed fields, but I have a great current neurologist. Well, my previous neurologist made a comment to me, because I get some wicked migraines, as I talk about in other videos. But he made the comment that even the worst migraine sufferers, in his career and all the years he's been a neurologist, that there have been a handful of cases that the migraines can just stop. There's still a lot, and even for all of our modern advances in medicine and everything else in science, the brain is still very much a mystery to us. Right. And for everything that's going on, for as bad as it might be, that all of a sudden one day I could wake up and you could wake up and it could all just stop, and all of a sudden you've got no more migraines. The brain clears up, and all of a sudden it's functioning, it's working. And I feel like because I've accepted that as a distinct possibility, and I like that affirmation came from a doctor. Not that it has to just come specifically from a doctor, but I appreciate it that it does. It came from not just a doctor, but a specialist in the field. Said that it just all of a sudden reinforced something that I wanted to believe within myself. Like, okay, well, if that's happened for other people, and he's saying that as a medical professional, that this is really possible, even not just in the terms of just believing it within myself, but in his profession and in his experience, that really carried a lot of weight with me, and I was really grateful. And I haven't forgotten that. I just feel like one of these days, somehow, some way, even as I get older, that somehow, some way, I'm going to get to this point where one of these days these things are going to be behind me. And same with you. One of these days you're going to get up and be like, wow, okay, I think I'm migraine free, and go years and not have to experience another one again. So just knowing that possibility, knowing that that's possible, fills me with big, great hope. And
exactly. And knowing people who've had migraines and then they don't have them anymore, that gives a lot of hope as well.
Sure.
So much hope.
Those people are out there. Yes. People have had crazy migraines as bad as either of us, and it stops at some point. There may not be a rhyme or reason, and it may be medically or in terms of other types of specialists, other types of healers. Maybe it's not something somebody can readily explain, but the thing is, it does happen. That's the truth. It does happen.
Well, look at the transformation that water takes when we speak love and life and kindness and beautiful things over it. Look what happens to food when we pray over it and give gratitude and thanks and honor the source where it came from, honor the life that it lived and the nutrients in it, you know, whether it's plant or animal, depending on what people eat. We're speaking without judgment. And, you know, just acknowledging plants and animals both hold wisdom. The food holds wisdom. They hold nutrition.
Right.
And what does that look like? What is it when we give gratitude to that life source and to the source beyond that that causes it to grow, mature?
Sure.
You know, what happens when we speak love over that, not just thanks, but wellness and prayer and how we pray, all of it. So, I mean, what does that look like? There's so many things that we do on a regular basis to already support this, because we're altering the cells of what is and making them better. So why do we become our own worst critics? Why are we not building ourselves up? The world already lies to us about us.
Very fair question.
Yeah, the world already lies to us about us. But some of the meanest lies we've ever heard are the lies we've told ourselves. And that has to change.
And of course, being hard on ourselves as well. And I'm very guilty of that at times. You know, maybe.
That's what I mean by the lies.
We were just talking about this. You know, that I mean, I went for 44 years. You know, with my brain working a certain way, and I had a fantastic, you know, near photogenic memory, tons of energy. You know, was a very quick thinker. All these things that I could count on with my brain, I can't count on anymore. And you know, especially with the traumatic brain injury stuff, and I know you relate to this too. And not just migraines, but there's the lack of energy, the brain fog that sets in. It's a very real thing. And sometimes when the brain doesn't work, it just doesn't work. And there are times that I will say I do my best to stay very positive and I stay mindful as much as I can. But there are just times when I need the brain to work, or I need me to work, and it just doesn't. And I can get very hard on myself, and I know that that's something I need to work on. But at the same time, I need to find a way to get things working so that I don't run the risk of making some of the very detrimental mistakes that can happen because the brain's not working. And I've done that before too, where I've cost myself dearly because the brain just didn't function in a moment, and I did something that I ended up hurting myself somehow.
Isn't it interesting how
hard not to be hard on yourself when that happens?
It is. And isn't it interesting how trauma brain and traumatic brain injury sometimes result in similar outcomes?
Sure.
Because the brain's not functioning at normal capacity.
Right.
Because it's trauma to the brain, whether it's a direct impact or an emotional, spiritual impact, but the outcome can be quite similar.
Or it can be all of the above, sure. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the trauma is trauma. I mean, there's a lot of different forms of trauma that are very, very real and have tremendous impact on a person.
Right. I'm going to sit this way for a minute because I'm just over here trying to get comfortable.
Just be comfortable.
Well, the back of the couch is here, and I'm this way with the puppy. And I'm sitting on his blanket, which is protecting the couch from little paws, and you know, it's all good. His little face is about to fall off the couch, and he's so asleep he doesn't even know. It's pretty funny. Yeah, that little boy. It's really amazing. And I listen to the way that I talk to the animals, and I'm like, how much of my life did I not talk to myself in a similar manner, and how much harm was done?
Because most people don't talk to themselves the way they talk to their animals or pets, even their children, if you will. I mean, most people are.
But I mean that level of kindness.
But that's true. No, you speak a very powerful truth, and it reminds me of something else that I sometimes ask when I do presentations. And I know I'm not the only person that does this, but I mean, I've only heard it a few other times where the question I ask, and this goes for myself, goes for you, goes for any of us, is can you walk up to the mirror right now, look yourself right in the eye in the mirror, and in a very heartfelt, meaningful way say, I love you. And I've been in front of a room full of people, and it's amazing to me how few of the people in that room will answer with, yes, I can do that. Most of the people, you just see the looks on their faces going, no, there's no way, I can't do that. Not to say that they don't love themselves, but to be able to just be open and just as free and giving that love to themselves as they might to their dog or their cat or their child or even their significant other is a big challenge for most of us. Now that's something I despite my moments of being hard on myself, this is something I do practice, and I will just, and even sometimes even right after I've just been hard on myself, I'll walk up to the mirror, I'll even apologize. It always sounds funny. I'll apologize to myself and remind myself that I do love you. And that's important, especially for somebody who, if you are somebody like me, who you can be sometimes a little bit tough on yourself for whatever reason. But it is important to be able to do that, I think, in any environment, no matter what kind of person you are, whatever you're going through, just remind yourself that that love's got to apply to you too, and apply to the self as much as it applies to anything or anyone that you love. Because I know some of us can give love so freely to everybody else, to the pets, to friends, to family, to love, to your significant others, so on and so forth, but we sometimes neglect ourselves in that regard. You got to remind yourself that, hey, I love you too. You know, so if you haven't done it lately, walk up to the mirror and see if you can. Yourself right in the eye and say, hey, I really do love you.
And a lot of people don't know how to do that. So there's a way to start learning how to do that. One of the things you can do, and one of the things I did, is include the animals or people that you love in a conversation like that, or the animals that you have loved, even if they've transitioned. Whoever it is that was able to reach you in your life, include them in your comment.
It's like you would never treat that animal like that. Why would you treat yourself like that, right?
Right. For me, it's not like I love myself. It's not that.
Not in an egocentric way. I don't mean it like that.
No, but I can say I love God in me. I do. I love that He's in me. I love that presence in me. It doesn't make me love me, but that presence in me is what gives me value to me. So I can love that. But when I was learning to speak loving kindness over myself, the way I learned how to do that was including the animals. So I could say, I love my puppies and me, and I would name them by name, and I'd name me as me. Then I could start giving all of us names, so the animals, and give them their names, and then Shana, give me my name. Then it became, how do I remove the gentleness and kindness that they deserve and make it, I deserve that kindness too. So when I started to eliminate them from that statement and make it about me, it was so hard, because all I have been is a caretaker for others, didn't know how to turn that energy inward.
Right.
Because I knew how to give. I didn't know how to receive. So I didn't realize I could give that to me and receive it.
It's still okay to receive it.
Yeah. I didn't know how to receive. So I cried and struggled through it for several weeks. And now it's second nature. But it was a learning process. And I had great guides and teachers helping me learn that, because it is a life skill.
It is.
But I could also speak tenderness and kindness and gentleness over the struggles and the harder, more difficult, challenging parts of being and what I was going through at that time, or how I perceived myself. But, this thing, I don't like this thing. And it was like, thank you, Heavenly Daddy. This area looks and feels and performs the way I want it to. It looks and feels and performs like this. It's this standard. Or I'd see a photo on something and I'd say, thank you, I have that same thing as that photo, whatever that was. Whatever I felt the need to look at, and instead of making it a comparison, it became a goal to reach that, not compare myself to it and body shame and go through those things. But it was moving away from that, saying, thank you that I have that. And suddenly my body started to change. And I'm not saying it's the perfect body on a, visual scale of whatever standard our society has.
That's all subjective.
But exactly, it is. But the thing is I'm not mean, angry, lying, hateful to myself. And I wasn't angry with myself, but I was disappointed that I was mean to myself. That's where that came from, is the disappointment. I was like, man, those are some really mean words I said. I've never said that to anybody but me. And I really shouldn't.
I understand.
I really can make better choices.
I've said some things to myself I would never say to another person.
But I no longer say those things.
And I'm still working on that.
So the thing I'm working on now, and it sounds like it's the same thing you're working on, is thank you, Heavenly Daddy, in your context, whatever that is for you. I am migraine free. Thank you, brain fog, frog. Please not frog. Brain fog is no longer true for me. You know, and it's just going through this list of these things. Thank you that paralysis has completely left this body and this body performs optimally.
Right.
At 100% with every single muscle in this body. Thank you that those things are no longer true for me. And that all the paralysis is replaced with perfect movement, balanced movement with every muscle and every part of my body. Right? But in saying these things, I'm speaking gentleness and kindness and support and life into the places that are frozen and not working right, because the not working right is temporary. I mean, when I built this house, I built it prepped with an elevator. You know, the elevator system's already built in, except for the elevator itself. But the elevator prep is established. It's ready to install an elevator. And I didn't do that because I knew if I had the elevator, I would be less likely to do the really hard work and achieve better mobility faster.
Makes sense.
So I decided to opt out of the elevator. And I'm glad I did. That was the right choice.
Movement is so important, especially if you're going through that kind of healing.
Right.
Movement is so key.
It is. Yeah, we can't be stagnant. Especially when we're transforming our lives and we're speaking life. We can't be stagnant or slow or delayed or create an easy out, because there's not an easy out.
It's true.
It's the manifesting and the dedication to what it takes to properly manifest. Then acting as if the result has already happened. Believing and living and the results already present.
And I've been working on that as well, and I feel you on it. I've heard other people that are, other people that I know that are wonderful manifestors that talk about the very same premise. It's like you're already there, even if the experience hasn't quite reflected that yet, but in your mind, you're already there. And one thing that I notice that kind of helps me is it's taking it day by day, for the things like the migraines, the brain fog type situation. And I do have some good days. I do have some days where that I don't have massive migraines, or the migraine passes pretty quickly, pretty early, and I actually end up having a decent day where I'm productive. I make sure to nurture that feeling, nurture that day, nurture that experience, and the goal and the mindset that I'm going to just reinforce that, so that hopefully that perpetuates and happen more and more often is the idea.
Absolutely.
And try not to wallow too much on those off days, and try not to put too much energy into that. And I think that's been one of those things that's been hopefully helping me, try to process through this most recent bout that I've been going through, and just savoring those moments when I am feeling good, remembering what that's like, and staying with that mindset. So even when I wake up during the day, that's the first thing that I think about. So I can try to present my day in that fashion, so I can create the best possible day that I can have, not in terms of the quality of the experience itself, but in terms of the health part of it, feeling as good as I can. If I have a night where I actually slept halfway decent, because I don't sleep that great very often, but I have a night sleep halfway decent, again, I remember that feeling, especially when I go to bed the next night. Okay, where was I in space? My mindset when I was dropping off and going to sleep and trying to get myself to sleep, so I can try to duplicate that and make that a habit and make that part of my pattern, so that I sleep better more consistently. And therefore, when I do sleep better and I'm sleeping consistently, that's when I do tend to have less migraines. I have less brain fog. I have less of those post-TBI symptoms. So it's focusing on those moments when it is working, and try to feeding that energy as much as I can, so hopefully I'm promoting that energy to keep recurring and become part of the pattern instead of the negative parts being the pattern. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, negativity needs to not be part of the pattern. If you notice any form of negativity in being part of your pattern, then that's a change that you can create. You're capable of doing that.
We do bring it upon ourselves, and I recognize that too. Sometimes I do bring it upon myself. I know there's certain, we call extenuating circumstances, that come from such an event, like falling or what have you, and what you've been through with many of your circumstances. But we decide how we handle that. We decide how we move through that, and it's true. One keeps putting the negative energy and feeding that negative into it, you're going to bring the negative back out of it. I think there's people out there that they get so caught up in their health issues and it becomes so much a part of their identity that it perpetuates even more health issues. Instead of moving them out of it and improving and healing, they're going deeper into that process and into that state, into that experience.
And knowing manifesting, what does that do? It perpetuates more illness,
right?
More
exactly
pain.
What I'm saying, totally.
Yeah, it's exactly. It feeds that system. So
feeds that pattern.
Yeah, for people who are of poverty mindset, which is extremely real, the more that we focus on and talk about what we don't have, the less we actually have. But the more we talk about, I attract money, money comes to me easily. When we start saying comments like that, it starts showing up.
And allowing yourself to believe it. I mean, and I've been caught in those cycles as well, and I understand that it does. That mindset can really perpetuate it, and you start to become, your experience reflects that mindset. So the universe, I've heard other people say this, can be very accommodating. So if that's your mindset, it's going to accommodate that mindset. But if your mindset is that I believe I can attract money, I can attract love, I can attract these particular types of experiences that I dream about and hope for and really want in my life, then the universe, and again, if you're doing it from a pure heart, with true belief, and you can make a decision that this is what it's going to be, then the universe, again, accommodates that, because that's the reality you're putting out. It becomes a reflection of your thought process, your mindset.
Money comes to me easily.
Right.
Money is attracted to me. I walk down the street and find money.
Money flows in my life.
Right.
Love flows in my life.
Right. Whatever that thing is that's lacking, or the thing that's present that we don't want to have present, whatever that is, it's like, oh, that thing that's present, nope, that thing's no longer true for me.
Don't
That's
feed it that energy.
That's right. I love my left knee. My left knee feels
that video, the other
amazing.
guy in that video, that was so awesome. It really was. It was one of the most charming things I've seen in a long, long time, and I can see a real truth to that. And this man obviously believed in what he was saying and lives by that. And I would believe in what he says. It works for him. It really works for him. And I think there's a lot of truth. I don't know that I'm going to start singing to my knee necessarily, but at the same time, or my brain for that matter, but at the same time, I can see the truth behind it. Feed it that positive energy, feed it that loving, pure, true energy, and the healing part's going to manifest. Right.
I sing silly songs to the animals all through the day.
Sure.
I mean, so much so that poor Hermione walks away from me. She's like, oh, not that again. But, you know, Radix will stay by me and listen to it, and he'll take it in. We'll say, oh, that's so sweet. Thanks, Mom. I love you. He'll just stay and listen. Hermione will listen to a degree, and then she's like, that is enough. You're just torturing me.
She's adorable, but she's kind of like got to be in the mood for something. And if she's not in the mood, she's not in the mood. But if she is in the mood, then she's totally in the mood.
Silly songs to her. But, you know, those songs are that speaking love over the need.
Sure.
Or just that reinforcement of, this is a real experience. This is really how I feel. And if I can so easily do that for these two, why am I not doing that for myself?
Totally, and I understand you. We totally understand that. Absolutely, great question, and we should. We both should. Absolutely.
In this life, I'm not forced to live with anybody but me.
And we all deserve to be loved like that. Even the love of our own selves, to attracting the love of that from not just from the animals in our lives, but also the people in our lives.
That's right. I'm gonna lean back. I'm gonna use him as a pillow. There, I got you. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he doesn't look too upset.
He's pretty happy about it. Okay, you're good. We're good. It's pretty fun.
Yeah,
it's pretty comfortable.
She's happy. She's back here. You can't see her in the camera. She's back here on a cushion, all comfy and sleeping, being perpetually cute.
She is cute. She is happy. She's a happy girl. Yeah. I'm gonna sit up. That's not exactly
as comfortable as I thought. But love really is the most powerful force in the universe for a reason. I mean, it truly is. It permeates all aspects of our experience. Everything, every part of the duality, dark, light, everything. Yeah. And there's nothing like love to heal you, to lift you up, to bring you to your best possible space, your best experience, and everything you believe you're meant to do in this life. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned from a near-death experience, and I think you've known this longer than I have, is it comes through just that pure, true love in your heart, and anything can happen with love. Anything is truly possible.
Love is boundless and love is limitless. So what happens when we turn that love to ourselves, to God in us, to the places that need change, the places of discomfort, the places of dis-ease? Say that very carefully. Not disease, dis-ease, discomfort, which is what disease is, right? But those places, or the things in our life, or the situations that we experience that we wish were different. How do we make those things different? What does that look like? How do we do this? And we're talking about how to create that. This is what we do. Him, the gentleman in the video, him singing. I love that.
It is just adorable, so and he can't even sing. Okay, I mean,
it doesn't matter.
But that's the whole point. He can't sing, but it's partly what makes it so adorable and endearing is that it's just coming from his heart. He doesn't care. He's just doing it right there on camera and for the whole world to see, because I think he's making an absolutely brilliant point.
Because love heals.
It does. Love heals. That positivity, that belief in that heals.
Love heals. And
he does. He was so honest, so real. It's one of the reasons it just touched me. And I mean, I'm almost tearing up because it was just so endearing to me. Because I totally understood what he was saying, regardless of whether he could sing or not, or if it's actually maybe your approach to it. But I get that sense of genuine positivity, the genuine earnestness of the love he was giving to himself in the process of healing whatever ailment that he was experiencing.
Right.
And
whatever that was that wasn't comfortable, he was creating that change.
He was, and that was his way of creating it. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
He had to be in his late 80s.
Yeah, it's hard to say. He was on video, but he was definitely, I mean, definitely older.
He was
I would say 70s,
older.
80s probably, something like that.
Yeah, but he was considerably older.
And he looked like he moved around just fine, and he was happy and vibrant and just full of life. Really beautiful.
He was adorable.
He was truly
adorable.
And I would love to hang out with this guy. I really would. Anyway.
We should invite him over for coffee.
Is he even in this country?
Oh, probably not.
Well, we should still have a real coffee, tea, something like that. I drink tea.
You know me. It's like whatever that cute animal is on that screen, it just needs to come live with me.
Yeah, right.
Whoever that person is being really fun and adorable and creative, they just need to show up for coffee because.
But we should at least, we should write him though. Send him a letter. Tell him how much. Even send him this video because he partly inspired what we're talking about tonight because it just touched the both of us so much.
We'll write him.
Yeah, we should totally.
We'll write him.
Yeah, let's do that.
Hey, if this video inspires you, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the idea. We share this stuff. It's partly for us because we're growing and evolving too, but at the same time, it's for you as well. Hoping it helps you with some part of whatever you're going through in your life. Especially if you're going through any kind of traumas, be it medical traumas or life traumas, hopefully something in here is helping you as well.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
That's great. Thank you for letting me be comfortable tonight. Barefoot and, just
Absolutely.
moving all over the place, hanging out with a puppy.
Laying all over your dog.
Yes.
You can tell he's not upset about that at all.
He doesn't mind that at all. He loves it. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you always.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of love too.
Yes, much love.
Peace.
Thank you. Peace.